So we'll use a little approach and retreat with the saddle pad again. Approach and then retreat. Approach, let him smell it, retreat, okay? And then, you know, this is day 2. I just want to just kind of move this thing around like he's been saddled his whole life. I love to throw the saddle pad on him. Always do it the top line, withers and back, hindquarters, neck. If you've already done a lot of desensitizing, throwing the rope at him, okay, and the stick and string and all that, this shouldn't be that hard, okay? Put it on their back, flex their head, flop it up and down here, slide it up and down their neck and their back, keep their head flexed. What I don't want you to do, I suppose, more than anything, is do this, is just sneak it up to the horse. It's all right. And then they just sneak it onto the horse, okay? When you sneak it around them, they get real jumpy. Like he just jumped just then when the wind blew and saddle pad hit him in the side. Do more of it, throw it at him. If they jump when you throw the saddle pad on, 3 days from now, keep doing it. And then flexing. Change sides. Okay, really go out of your way. Treat him like an old 10-year-old broke kid's horse. But he's just had the saddle pad on him his whole life. Okay, get his head tipped towards you. Okay, flop it up and down. Flex him. Good boy. Now I know where my stick is, it's over there. I'm going to saddle him from the off side again. This wind's not cooperating today, is it? When I used to start a lot of colts in Australia, at Gordon's place, I used to hate having to saddle colts on windy days because they're just always a lot more reactive on windy days, and oh, the wind will blow their tail up their butt cheeks and they'll start bucking with the saddle when you're standing beside them and all kinds of things. But anyway, it's just part of it. Okay, I'm going to shorten this up a little bit here so that I've got his head tipped towards me here. Move it up and down. That's it. Get that head tipped. Don't let them look back the other way in case they jump away from the saddle and jump on top of you. Okay, be very conscious of that they don't jump on top of you. Probably from the 3rd saddling onwards, I can start saddling from the other side. But I like to saddle them from this side so I can put down the front and back cinch, move it all around. I only want to have to let go of the saddle once when I change sides. Because every time I let go of that saddle, I potentially run the risk of him jumping and that saddle coming off. Right, I'm going to change sides now, smooth and quick. As soon as I can, get my hand back on it. If you really went to run or do something silly, I would rather just pull the saddle off him than have it be bucked off, you know, or fall off on the ground. Okay, so I try to keep one hand on the saddle at all times, other than when I'm changing sides. Okay, rub him, let him know you're coming. Pull it up, retreat. Pull it up tight, retreat. Okay, I'm going to take my first wrap. I wouldn't be surprised if he bucks today with the saddle. I think it's 50-50 with him being a little reactive today with the wind and not being in the round pen and being so confined. We'll see what happens. He may not. Okay, I've taken the first wrap, so now I'm committed. So it's important that I get this done up smooth and quick. Smooth as in not real scary to where I'm making a lot of noise, and quick as in I don't want to be standing beside him if things go wrong. Okay, rub him, let him know you're coming. Okay, then grab that back cinch. I want to pull that up so it's touching his belly. That's it. I'm going to let down the stirrup. Now I'm going to back away from him here. Keep my eyes on him. Pick up my stick. That's it. Yeah, pretty good there. That's good. I wouldn't have been surprised if he would have bucked a little bit just then, especially being a little windy and reactive today. That's good. I'm glad he didn't, but if he would have, okay, I'm going to try to have to simulate a little bit. Let's just say he went to take off and buck now. That, pull him around. That, pull him around. That, pull him around. That, pull him around. Get in his face a little bit. Okay? Step in front. Change directions. Step in front. Change directions. Step in front. Change directions. Okay, that's what I would have done if he would have taken off and started bucking then. Jerk him off his feet a few times. Make him give you two eyes. Show him that when he wants to be reactive and buck, you can still control his feet. What you don't want to do is let him think that bucking's okay, because it doesn't take very long and they get in a habit. They know, well, I'll buck for 5 minutes, then I'll be good. Yield. Now let me just tighten up that front cinch. When I do it up, I want to do it just kind of snug. And then I'll let go around a few times. Do it up again. Notice I got his head tipped towards me. Get those back legs away. Back cinch, I could go up a little tighter on that. I don't necessarily want the back cinch tight, but I want it to where they can feel it. I don't like it hanging off them, and then all of a sudden they jump over a log or jump, and then that back cinch touches them and they get a surprise. If you're not going to have that back cinch touch their belly, might as well not have it on. Pull and release a little bit on the halter here. I'd like to get him to soften up more to it. Get that nose tipped in, shoulder out. So every single time I start to see that nose go out, I'm going to bump it in. Step in front. Okay. He's naturally a lot softer on this right circle. Step in front. Okay. Yield his hindquarters. Excellent. So he really reacted really well, okay? But don't be fooled into thinking every colt you saddle is not going to buck like he did. A lot of them will. Slide, yield. The only thing I would have done differently is if he would have bucked with the saddle today and on his second saddling, I probably would have tried to leave the saddle on him again all day. I wouldn't take it off in an hour and a half when I get done with him. I'd leave it on again all day, let him wear it. As long as they want to buck with it, I let them wear it. Let them keep wearing it until it just becomes like a part of their body, like their mane or their tail. Good boy. Okay, I'll show you some new exercises now. Now, mate, what I'd like to do is get Ransom a lot more comfortable with the saddle moving around on him. Get the stirrups flapping more, the back cinch, whacking the saddle, those type of things. So I'm going to start out with a little bit more desensitizing now, okay? Yesterday when we unsaddled him, I did flap him a little bit before I took it off, but not a great deal. Today I want to do a lot more flapping with these stirrups, because this is a big secret to not getting bucked off, is get the horse comfortable with where your legs hang, okay? Make sure they're used to this flapping sensation here. And then I want to be able to get it to where I can pick up on that back cinch too and pull on it. There. Now, the good news is he's not wanting to go anywhere. Bad news is it's a little hard to demonstrate when he doesn't want to run. But let's just say he wanted to run away from me right now. I would just keep his head tipped towards me and just keep flapping it until he would do two things. He would stop moving his feet and he relaxed. You remember on the fundamentals series with Bo, when I started throwing the rope at Bo, he flipped out and got really frightened, didn't he? He'd run sideways away from me across the arena. What did I do? I kept his head tipped towards me and I kept throwing the rope at him. And I kept doing that. He ran around for 5-6 minutes until he eventually stopped moving his feet and he relaxed. I do the exact same thing here. Okay, keep his head tipped towards me, just like I've got his head tipped here, and keep flapping it here. And then get in there and flex. Whatever we do on one side, we do it on the other. Okay. See, even just reaching my hand up to his neck there, he kind of shied away a little bit. Just anytime I find an oh-no spot, repeat it over and over again until you get rid of it. Okay. Notice that I always have the lead shank kind of short. I've got his head tipped towards me. In case he go to kick at me, do something silly, got to get that rear end away. Okay. That's it, boy. So initially when I start flapping them, I stay up here by their shoulder. As they get quieter, then I get further back and get in closer to them. But until they prove to me they're not going to kick me or overreact, I'm going to get up here in that safe spot. Remember, Gordon McKinley taught me a lot about being safe. Don't get back near those back legs, especially in the beginning. Get up here, pull on this back cinch. That's it. So he's doing better here. Rightio, let's do a new exercise. This is what I call stirrup driving. This is one of my favorite exercises to do with colts because it gets a lot of the fear out of them, it gets them respectful, and it gets them used to something bumping or banging on their belly so that when I ride them, they don't overreact to my legs, okay? So I want him to go forward, and I'm going to get him and bump him. Come on. Get his feet moving here. Bump him with the stirrup. If he doesn't move, I'll use my foot. That's a boy. And I just want him to basically do the circle driving, but up close, and I use the stirrup as the motivator to go forward and a little bit of clocking. I kicked him in the belly a few times because my stirrup was a little ineffective. Plus, I didn't want to get that close to him. When you first bump them in the belly with the stirrup, especially if they're kind of wild, they might kick at it or cow kick, okay? So I don't want to be that close to them. Once they get comfortable with it, then I'm all right. Okay, he's kind of pulling away from me a little bit here. That's why I do this. Flap it here. So step one is just get them comfortable kind of going around you. It's very similar to circle driving. Always point with the halter before you use the stick, except now the stick is the stirrup. Now that he's going around me, I just want to flap it a little bit and just kind of get him desensitized to this. Not worrying about this flapping sensation. Horses hate objects that move and make a noise. Well, the saddle is now a new object. It moves and it makes a noise. That's it. Try to keep your belly button facing forward. Now, when I want to change directions, I'm going to pick my hand up towards his butt. Gather my rope up here. And I'm going to eventually get close enough to him where I can yield him with the stirrup, which will represent my leg. Okay. Right now he's a little bit worried about that stirrup, so I couldn't get that close to him. That's it. If they just walk initially, that's all right. If I can't get him to go, use my rope. Go forward now. And then get in close to him again. Wave my arm. Now pick up that stirrup. So got to get him used to this flapping sensation. So those big gusts of winds that blow their tail up between their back legs or touch that back cinch and blow that back cinch against their belly, that's when they'll usually get a little more reactive. I'm going to yield that hindquarters, disengage it here, change sides, that's it. Even just waving my arm right here, back and forth in the air. I'm getting him used to things that are moving up in the air a little bit more too. He's got to get used to seeing me up above his eye here before we ride him. Okay. Yield his hindquarters. That's a little better. Now I can press that stirrup against his flank a little bit better. That was better, and that time he didn't overreact so much. Okay. Stay up by the shoulder here initially, in case they go to kick. Now, he's kind of pushing into me a little bit here, so I'll thump him with that stirrup if he leans in too much. Like that there. Okay. Get him comfortable with his arm moving up in the air. Some horses struggle with you reaching down and picking up the stirrup, so practice that. Okay. Yield his hindquarters. He's really stiff here. Eventually I want him to bend and yield the hindquarters. There we go. I love to do lots of slapping on this saddle. Makes a noise. It's where I'm going to sit. So I slowly start getting things higher in the air. Okay. But don't do any of this until your horses quit wanting to buck and kick at the saddle. Back cinch, okay? Because you're in too close to them. If something would go wrong, there's a good chance they'll kick you. Okay, so especially on these wild ones, make sure they're comfortable with the saddle. If he gets lazy, I'll kick him with it, with that stirrup. That stirrup represents my leg. I can't stress the importance enough of going looking for those oh-no spots. I try to get bucked off on the ground every day in my preparation. I try to make them do something silly that would cause them want to buck or react. Because if I can't make them buck me off on the ground, pretty good chance they won't buck me off when I get on them. But I guarantee that you sneak around them and you set them up to fail by sneaking around them, not trying to scare them. He's a little sticky here, isn't he, with his back end. So if I have to, I'll just go use the rope again. If I find that the stirrup is being ineffective. There. Do what you have to do to get the job done. If the tool that I've got's not effective, get the right tool. If I shoot somebody and they get up, I got to get a bigger gun. Okay? Until when I do shoot them, they don't get up. That's it. Slap him on the butt here a little bit. That's it. Yield that hindquarters. He's better this way, yielding his hindquarters. There, I love that how he kind of bent his head just then and yielded that butt. This side is a little stickier. Move that hindquarters. See, that way when I put my leg back here under saddle, he'll already have a bit of an idea how to yield that hindquarters. Another little thing you can do to him, just as a little extra desensitizing, he's doing pretty good with it, but go ahead and take your string off your stick. And just put it through the stirrup. And just see if you can have that stirrup flapping up and down from a little bit of a distance. especially if they're really frightened of it and you think they might kick at you, do it like this. That way you're safe. Well, a lot safer, put it that way. Okay. You can get pretty aggressive about it. That's a boy. Move that hindquarters. Move that hindquarters. Move that hindquarters. That's a boy. Okay, pretty good there. Again, anytime I do something for the first time, he doesn't have to get perfect at it. He just has to understand the basic concept. And the basic concept of stirrup driving is when I bump you in the belly with the stirrup, move forward. When I flap the stirrup, ignore it. When I press you with your stirrup back near your back cinch, I want you to yield your hindquarters and I want you to go in a circle. So we're already teaching the colt how to follow his nose and do a circle right now. We're teaching him how to steer. Okay? Really good. I'm going to go back and desensitize him right now and flex him, and then we'll do some new exercises with him. One thing I want to stress at this particular point is making sure that from now on, every time you're on one side, you do lots of flapping and you're desensitizing. Okay? Lots of pulling on this back cinch up and down here. Lots of rubbing your hand down their butt, and tons of this, slapping them under their flank. I love to get any of this jumpy, spooky stuff out of them. Lots of slapping on the saddle here. See how he didn't like that just then? I'm slapping the saddle. So he's trying to straighten his head out and I keep his head bent. Lots of that, okay? I'm gonna start doing lots of jumping up and down like this beside the saddle. See how I've got his head tipped towards me here? He's a little uncomfortable about me jumping up and down, but guess what? I gotta eventually be able to get on him, so he better get used to a little bit more of this. See, whenever you add the saddle, it's another dimension that they have to get used to. It's another element. See how I kept jumping until he relaxed? So you're gonna see me do a lot of this when we desensitize from now on. Tons and tons of slapping him under the belly, slapping the saddle, jumping up and down beside the, see, I want to get all that out of him. See about throwing his head up there? And I mean, so much of this flapping the stirrups on his belly, it's sickening, okay, to do that much of it. Because that's what's going to keep me safe from getting bucked off, okay? Lots of this. Pretty soon I'm going to start whacking it with the bag, plastic bag and the stick, a dressage whip, the stick, all kinds of things. Get him used to things tapping and whacking that saddle. That's it. That's a boy. So I'm still going to continue with the rope and the stick and string, but I'm going to add a lot more of that type of stuff to the desensitizing. I want to take a few minutes, mate, to talk to you about the importance of practicing the majority of your groundwork with the saddle on. Like today was his second saddling, and I probably did maybe 20-25 minutes worth of groundwork before I actually put the saddle on him. So why did I do that? To get him using the thinking side of his brain, to get him respectful, to make sure he's not fresh and jumping out of his skin, and to make sure I had decent control of his feet. Now tomorrow when I go to saddle him, I'm probably only going to do maybe 5-10 minutes worth of groundwork and then saddle him. And the next day 2 or 3 minutes, until eventually in 3 days from now, I want to be able to catch him, flex him a few times, desensitize him, and then pretty much put the saddle on and immediately saddle him. Because the majority of my groundwork exercises, I need him to practice wearing the saddle more. So it doesn't work very good if you do all the groundwork without the saddle and then you put the saddle on right at the end. Now, that's okay the first time you saddle him, but each day after that you saddle him, try to get that saddle on quicker and quicker. But to the same extent, don't set your horse up to fail, okay? Set him up for success. Don't bring him out when he's breathing steam and he's breathing fire and he's reactive and he's spooky, and then saddle him up and wonder why he's bucks. Try to give him a roadmap to succeed by building him up to where you've got him using the thinking side of his brain, he's calm, he's respectful, and then you're giving him the best chance of not wanting to buck, okay? So as each day goes by, I'm going to get the saddle on quicker and quicker and practice more of my groundwork so he gets used to the stirrups, the back cinch, the front cinch, the saddle moving around, me jumping up and down, all that kind of stuff, okay? So let's start expanding on our desensitization now. We did a lot with the rope, didn't we? And the stick and string, he's pretty good with that. I wouldn't say he's perfect with it, but he's pretty good with it. He's getting more comfortable with me all the time, you know, jumping around him and moving around him. Now I want to start getting him used to plastic bags on the end of a stick, okay? Most horses do not like plastic bags because it's an object, it moves, and what else? It makes a noise, okay? So I want to get my horses used to as many objects that move and make a noise as I possibly can. And I want to eventually get him really good about this bag being moved all around him, up in the air, etc. When I first introduced the plastic to most horses, okay, I'm not going to say all, but most, what I like to do is just walk away from the horse in the beginning to build their confidence. Whenever something scary is going away from the horse, they're always a lot more willing to accept it, okay? But in his case, you see how he's a little bit reluctant to lead here, isn't he? He doesn't really want to get off that halter as good as I want and follow me. So in his particular case, okay, what I'm going to do is just start at the standstill. Or what I could do if he was really frightened here and wanted to move away from the bag, use the fear of that bag to move his feet. And I did a little bit of that before, didn't we? Yield his hindquarters, move that forequarters. Okay, I'll use the fear of that bag, hindquarters, forequarters, to help encourage those feet to move. Hindquarters, forequarters, little lunge in stage 2, step there, step there, step there, step there. I'll use the fear of that bag to redirect those feet. So I'm killing two birds with one stone. I'm getting the horse to get used to the bag, and at the same time, I'm moving his feet, which gets him using the thinking side of his brain. Okay, so it depends. If your horse can lead a little bit better, I'd rather you walk away first in the beginning and get him following you, just like we did on the fundamental series with Bo. Okay, we walked away from him slapping the ground. That's step 1. But I have to adapt it depending on the situation here. I love that. He's getting a little dull to me now. He's kind of like, you're not going to do anything with that bag. I love it when they start chumping me a little bit with the plastic bag. Okay, where they kind of get to the point where they're not even remotely scared of it because they know you're just a big threat. You threaten them like you're going to get them with it, but you never will get them. There we go. There we go. And I just keep blocking them here until the horse says, you know what? I wonder what happens if I just stand still. Ah, good boy. Now you get to have a rest. Okay. And then put the bag behind me and rub his face. So now I just want to get him used to the bag more around him. I'm not going to try and touch him with it just yet. I just want to desensitize the airspace. So start out wide, bring it in closer, use approach and retreat. These are not new concepts by this stage. It should be pretty simple. So don't even think about trying to touch your horse until he's really good with the bag being moved around the airspace. Always retreat and rub him. Once the horse is really comfortable with the bag around him, then you can start touching him with it. And I'll show you that probably tomorrow's session. But today we just want to really get him confident at just letting us move this bag around him. Start out wide if you have to. Start bringing it in closer. I love that. He's got his leg cocked there. It's a good sign of relaxing. Okay. So sometimes I'll use a little reverse psychology with the bag. Hey, you want to move? Okay, let's move. Let's use that fear of that bag to help you move their feet. It's funny about horses, you know, the more you want a horse to do something, the less they usually want to do it. Then you say, hey, I don't want to do that. And then they're like, oh no, I want to do it now. Okay, so if you say, hey, if you want to move your feet, okay, I want to move your feet too. Won't be very long and the horse will be like, how about we just stand still and you can rub me with that bag. See how I always put the bag behind me? Don't stick it up under their nose. They might rear up and strike out at it. Okay, the plastic bag in the wrong person and wrong horse is like a nuclear weapon waiting to get hurt. Okay, somebody's going to get killed. There we go. Okay. Move those feet. Anytime he gets stuck and he doesn't want to move his feet, okay, I just go and drive him. Okay, so if he gets too stuck, follow the feel, drive those feet. So I'm going to address this leading here in the next couple of days and get him following that feel a lot better than what he is now. That's a little better there. That's a boy. See how by unlocking his feet it got him leading a little better? So don't pull on them, drive them. If they get sticky, just point, drive them. Point, drive them. Never hurts to walk away from your horse with something that they're frightened of. Radio. So, and now, every time I desensitize, I'm gonna rope, stick, stirrups, flap the stirrups, jump up and down beside the saddle, get the plastic bag out and do this. I got a lot of desensitizing now to do. And that's part of starting colts, is you've got to do a really good job of getting the fear out of them. Okay. Lots of that, lots of slapping all over them. Pick up this tail, pull on this tail a little bit. If he wanted to move around, I keep his head bent, keep following him. As soon as he stopped moving his feet and he relaxed, I'd retreat. Lots of that, pulling on this back cinch. Slapping here, jumping up and down beside the saddle. A lot of them don't like you jumping up beside their eye here like this. So get them used to this. That's a boy. Change sides. That's a boy. Now, of course, if you followed our groundwork series with the foals and you've done all the exercises with your horses up to they're 2 years of age, this is really easy. They've already passed all these steps. Good boy. Now I want to introduce 3 new ways of backing up to ransom, okay? Remember, there's 4 main methods of backing a horse up in the down under horsemanship method. We've got tap the air, we've got wiggle, wave, walk and whack, we've got the marching technique, and the 4th one is backing off steady pressure. Well, so far we've only taught him the first one, and let's review that, okay? Which is basically when you feel pressure in front of you, when I tap the air with the stick or tap the rope, I need you to move those feet and back away, okay? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, there we go. He's not super fast at it yet, but he's catching on here that when I tap the air, there's 4 good steps. I'm not having to whack the rope quite as hard as I initially was to get a reaction. Still get 2 eyes though. Sometimes he has a tendency to want to try to turn on me. See, like right there, 2 eyes. Don't let him look off. 1, 2. There we go. I like that. 2 eyes. This is the first one. You've got to get the horse understanding the concept of backing away from you. When you add pressure in front of them, don't run left, don't run right, actually back up. Backing up is a very big part of my program. It's the ultimate in gaining that horse's respect. Now his hindquarters wants to always leak out towards my left, so anytime I get a chance, I'll push it to my right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. There we go. So you got to make sure this is decent first as far as they understand there. When you apply that pressure, the release is go backwards. Okay, the next one is what we call wiggle, wave, walk and whack. You remember that from the arena mates, okay? And fundamentals, draw your hula hoop around you. Now it basically teaches the horse that you can pick up this hula hoop around you and move with it. So I'm going to wiggle the rope, I'm going to wave the stick, I'm going to come forward, and if he doesn't move, I'm going to whack him on his chest. So wiggle gently, wave. Now you notice then when I wiggled, he went to do that, didn't he? So then I wiggled a little bit more aggressively and got two eyes. Wiggle, wave, there, I like that. Wiggle, there. And just after a couple of steps initially, don't get greedy and look for 20 steps. Just get the concept across the horse. Whenever I first teach a horse something, it's a concept lesson. Wiggle. Ah, I love that. He started to back up when I wiggled that rope. Okay? Wiggle is I'm asking you. Wave is I'm telling you. Walk is I'm coming. And whack is I told you so. Okay, wiggle. That's it. If you go to rub them and they start wandering around like drifting sideways or coming forward or just kind of messing around in general, get a little bit more aggressive and back them up there. Okay, see when he jumped left and right, I just kept pulling with the halter until I got two eyes. There we go. Rubbing. Wiggle. Wave. There. And every day I'm going to practice this backing until eventually he's really good with it. There we go. Wiggle. There. Good boy. Wiggle. Initially, they're going to have a tendency to go a little crooked. I don't worry too much about that, but I will anytime I can push the hindquarters the opposite way it wants to go. Like right here, right here, right here. He wasn't trying to get out of my personal space. Wiggle. There we go. That time he tried. Wiggle. There, I like that. So I might quit on that. Next one is our marching technique, okay? Marching technique is I'm going to poke my chest out, march, 1, 2, 3, 4, walk. And if he doesn't back up, I'm going to whack him either on his chest or underneath his jaw with the stick. It depends how sensitive they are. If they're not very sensitive, I'll whack them up under their jaw. If they're pretty sensitive, I'll just tap them on their chest. Rub it here. See how he's wanting to drift over here? He's thinking sideways is the answer, like right here. So every time he goes to drift off, see here? I'm going to redirect it backwards. There, until he learns to just wait. 1, 2, 3. There's a couple of steps. Again, don't get greedy in the beginning. There. Teach the horse the answer is move your feet backwards. 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a couple of steps. And notice I always what? Rub it away. There's a couple of steps. Tomorrow I'll get 4 steps. Next day 6 steps. 8, and you just keep building on it 2 or 3 steps every day. By the end of the week you'll be amazed how good they can back up. But if you get greedy, see like right here, I went to whack him under his jaw because he's a little bit kind of lazy there. Wasn't quite taking me seriously. Like if you've got a little thoroughbred filly or an Arab or a sensitive quarter horse, you know, tapping them on their chest is all it takes to get them to take you seriously. You've got more of a cold-blooded type horse, a lazy horse, you'll whack them on the chest and they'll think it felt good, okay? So you're going to have to whack them under their jaw until you get them to take you seriously. And people say, well, does that make them head shy? Well, the answer is no, is because you always what? Watch this. You always rub it away. That's why I do this, you rub it away. 1, 2, 3, there we go. Rub it away. Ah, I like that. So I'm going to quit this here in a second. He's moving around. Redirect it backwards. Whenever he goes sideways, just redirect it backwards. That's a boy. Okay, I might quit on that there. So a little improvement there. Again, wasn't perfect, but does he understand the concept? The answer is yes. If that's yes, move on. From the second lesson onwards, then I start looking for perfection. I start getting a little pickier every day, but not the first lesson. Next thing I want to do is teach him how to back up a little bit better off steady pressure. Remember, there's 2 types of pressure when you train a horse, steady pressure and driving pressure. Steady pressure has, well, it's just that. It's just a steady, direct pressure. Like, for example, like right now, I'm leaning on him. This is steady pressure. It's very easy for a horse to lean on you when you're using steady pressure. Now watch, this is driving pressure. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. It's a pulsating rhythm. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, it's hard for a horse to lean on driving pressure. So, I'm going to yield his hindquarters 360 degrees around, or until I'm happy with it. I can go more than 360 if I'm not happy with it. And then I'm going to ask him to back up off the steady pressure of that halter. Pick up, jiggle, there. Here's the sequence of pressure. I'm going to pick up. If that doesn't work, I'm going to jiggle. If that doesn't work, I'm going to jerk. If that doesn't work, and then I'm going to whack him on his chest. By yielding his hindquarters first, I've already got those feet moving. So then all I have to do is redirect the feet somewhere else. There. So he's wanting to lean on that halter when I first pick up on it, which is very normal in the beginning. Pick up. There. That time with a little steady pressure, he took 2 steps back. Good boy. Yield his hindquarters. Get those feet moving. Pick up. He's leaning. Yeah. What's the hardest part about pushing a car when it breaks down? Getting it to initially start rolling. Once it's rolling, it's not that hard to keep it rolling. So that's what I'm doing by yielding his hindquarters. I'm getting his feet to move, and then I'm there, redirecting those feet somewhere else. Try it from the other side. New side, new brain. Go back and reteach it. This side, his hindquarters is a little stickier. Pick up. There. Rub it away. Now I get my thumb up underneath the snap. Make sure you pick up with lightness first. There, that was really light. Good boy. Now, after a couple of days of practicing, you don't need to yield their hindquarters every time you do it. If they anticipate backing up, just keep going around until they stop anticipating and then back them up, or just go around and then wait. Don't back them up. Do the opposite. Okay, but all these horse mistakes and handler mistakes are in the arena, mates. There. That was really light. Let's just see what he's like at a standstill. Pick up, jiggle, jerk, stick. Pick up, jiggle, jerk, stick. Pick up, jiggle. There we go. So he's not quite ready for the standstill, is he? He needs more of moving his feet, letting him get his feet unstuck, and then, good boy, backing up. Okay. You can start to refine it by just using your finger to yield their hindquarters now. Pick up. There. Now, teaching your horse to back up off steady pressure is extremely important for getting them to back up under saddle. If you can't get them to back up off steady pressure on the ground, they're not going to back up with steady pressure on the saddle, okay? So that's why you want to teach it, because if you can get them doing it on the ground, it's relatively, oh, I like that. A little sticky right here. First couple steps are pretty good. There, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to quit before he quits me. Quit before he quits me. And tomorrow, that's not going to be acceptable though. Tomorrow I'll want 4 steps, or at least 3 anyway. Good boy. So work on your backing a little bit every day, and you'll find they'll get more respectful. They'll stay out of your personal space, and it's a great way to get them used to thinking side of their brain, mate. Now Ransom's ready to move on with the desensitizing with the plastic bag. He's pretty comfortable with the bag moving around the airspace around him. Remember, it's always airspace first. So in between each of our exercises, I've been coming back, desensitizing him with the rope, the stick, the plastic bag, in between, okay? So I haven't even remotely tried to really touch him with it at this point. I've just been moving the bag around the airspace. So this is step 1, okay? Once the horse is comfortable with that, around all 3 sides in front and each side, then you can start to touch him with the bag, okay? Now initially I'll just start scratching him here, like imaginary scratching it. Now it's a little harder on a day like this when the wind is really blowing the bag around and so forth, but I'll just start scratching my imaginary horse. I imagine he's really fat, and I'm just going to keep scratching him right here, okay? And I'm just going to scratch him here on his withers and back, okay? And I can start to flap it a little bit here, and I always try and position it so that the wind is blowing the bag towards the horse, okay? But make sure that the wind doesn't blow the bag over his spine, okay? Because if you get that bag over the other side of his spine and the horse looks back at it, they might jump away from the bag and jump on you, okay? I stay away from his head just initially, just get his body kind of good here. That's a boy. We'll change sides. Because the wind's blowing so much, I'm gonna turn him this way so that the wind's blowing that bag towards him. Scratch a little bit here, get him used to it. Okay, and now I can start to flap him with it. Remember to use approach and retreat, withers and back, hindquarters, neck, back end, front end, okay? That's it. And really from here, to be honest, I just keep expanding on it. Keep exploring what they'll tolerate. Make sure the lead shank's short enough that you've got their head tipped towards you. I like to do a lot of whacking of that bag on that saddle. I want to make sure the horse is very comfortable with an object moving in that saddle. Okay, now I'm not going to worry about his head for probably right now. Just get the rest of his body really good. Okay, he's handled this really well. Change sides. There we go. 45-degree angle to his shoulder. Okay. I want to flog him with kindness with this bag. I love that he's got his leg cocked there. It's a good sign. Don't worry about the head until the body is really, really good. Okay, pretty good there. I was happy with that. Let's teach him something new that he doesn't already know. I'd like to go ahead and get Ransom leading a little bit better now. So that's what I'm going to work on next, is getting him to lead up beside me. Initially, I haven't been worrying too much about that because I'm just trying to get him to connect the halter to his feet, but now we can start to get a little picky. I'm going to take my string off my stick, I'm going to put it around the horse's neck. And it's going to be like a reference point of where I want my shoulder to be. I'm going to put it right smack bang in the middle of his neck, between his throat latch and the bottom of his shoulder. And then I'm just going to tie it off so it can't slip down any further. Okay. Now what I want to do is get him to lead up beside me and have my shoulder level with that string. Now to start off with, I'm going to bring him over here next to the fence. See, when I go somewhere, I can drive him where we want to go, yield his hindquarters, point, drive him, point. By using the fence initially, it'll stop the horse from trying to run away from you. Right here. I'm just going to start on the left side. It really doesn't matter what side you start on. Okay. I'm going to put my elbow at the base of the snap and run my arm down that rope, just like we did in leading beside in the fundamental series, just like that. Okay. Now, I'm going to ask him with the lead rope and tell him with the stick. And I'm just going to walk down here. Now I can't get too close to the fence because otherwise he'll feel too trapped and claustrophobic and want to run past me, or he'll want to stop and back up. So I just got to kind of find a starting point. Okay. See how that string is behind my shoulder? So I'm going to point and then use the stick and tap until he speeds up. So normally with a domesticated colt or one of the fundamental clinics, I'd have you get right beside that fence. I'm a little bit off it here because again, he's still got a little bit of reactiveness in him. He's a little bit claustrophobic and worried about the fence and me. Okay. Now if he gets ahead of me, I tried to block him a little bit with my stick and it didn't work, so I'll just abort that and go ahead and do a little turn and get him to slow his feet down. That's it. I'm not going to get too picky about this. I just want him to understand the basic concept of get up beside me. Point, tap. Point, then tap. Point, and tap. Now if he gets ahead of me, I'll just pivot, have him go around me, and then walk off. That's it. Just like that. Now as he gets a little bit more comfortable, okay, I'll be able to get closer to the fence. Just kind of pivot, use the stick to tap. There we go. So pretty simple here. Step one, just get the horse confidently staying up beside you. Now that string is a little bit ahead of my shoulder, and that's okay for right now. I'd rather it be a little bit ahead of my shoulder than too far behind. Ideally, see there when he starts to trot, I just pivot, redirect that energy somewhere else, and then go on. He's just got to realize whenever he gets too fast, I'm just going to redirect that energy. And I want to walk a pretty good pace. I want to walk like I'm won the lottery and I've got 3 minutes to get there to pick up the winning ticket. You want to get moving here. You don't want to walk too slow, because if you do, the horse will train you to go at their pace. Notice I'm holding the stick like I'm shaking somebody's hand. Okay. You notice in a lot of the exercises on this colt starting series, I'm not going into tons of detail on all the handler mistakes and horse mistakes and things like that. Okay, I cover a few of them, but that's what the arena mates are for, to cover all that stuff. Plus, that's what the fundamental series is. The fundamental series goes for 28 hours, so it's extremely detailed. If you've already watched it and can do the fundamentals, which is kind of what I highly recommend before you try to start a colt, you already be aware of the things you need to avoid doing and things you need to be doing more of. There we go. Now he's starting to relax a little bit more. Okay, that string's kind of lined up with my shoulder a little bit better. Now if you don't use the fence initially, the horse will want to crab out beside you. What are you doing, little Vito? Come forward now. If he goes too fast, pivot. That's it. And just go on. So if they're not comfortable with just being up beside you, again, don't think about trying to get them to do inside turns and outside turns. There we go. Now I feel him starting to relax a little bit more. And get him in a little closer to the fence here. If at any point they get ahead of you, just stop, pivot. Try not to turn around and face them when they back up or resist you. Just keep your belly button facing forward. Okay, so he's got the hang of that. Let's start some inside turns. I just want to turn into the inside and go straight. Turn again, and then go straight. I want him to read my body language. When I turn my shoulders like this, he should speed up a little bit and get in position. Boy. Turn again, look over my shoulder. There, I kind of like what he did just then. He overdid it a little bit, but he actually sped up just then to try to stay up beside me. He sped up too much, but I at least appreciate the effort. Come up here. Inside turns always come before outside turns. Get the horse to draw towards you. Turn. If he lags, I'll point. If that doesn't work, I'll tap him with the stick. Point, then tap. Until one day when I point, he immediately hustles up those feet. See here, that dragon? There. Got to get him off that halter. Now, don't be frightened to just do a whole session just on the fence. There's no reason why you have to do the fence and turns all in the same turn session like I am. That's it. He's starting to get the hang of it now. Turn. See him leaning on that halter? That's what we've got to get better. Get him to come off that pressure better. Now do an outside turn. Use my stick a little bit. Drive that front end away, quarter of a turn. Go straight. Drive that front end away, quarter of a turn. Go straight. Drive that front end away, quarter of a turn. Come on, get up here, go straight. So these are these outside turns. If you've got control of the horse's forequarters, remember, driving the front around the rear, you can drive that forequarters away. This shouldn't be that big of a deal. Yeah, I like that, he's licking his lips. So break all of it down. Like he's being a little bit pushy here. So I'm gonna tap him on his nose when I feel him getting a little bit lazy. I make little circles with my stick here a little bit. There. A little stuck. That's it. He's lagging. He's lagging. That's a boy. Come on up. So he needs about 3-4 days of this, just inside turns, outside turns, and coming forward. See this stickiness? That's why we're going to do this exercise. This is going to get him leading so much more confidently to where he doesn't drag behind me so much. Good boy. Drive that forequarters away. That's a boy. And then always what? Rub it to a stop. So he wasn't perfect at it. Yet again, it's his first lesson. See how I lifted my hand up towards his eye and he kind of threw his head up? Again, anytime I see an oh-no spot, fix it. And I'll do this 10, 20 times until he doesn't worry about that. If I just would have rubbed him and moved on, I wouldn't have fixed anything. Usually oh-no spots get worse the more you avoid them. I love that one. He lowered his head right down, didn't he? So again, in between each exercise, come back, do your desensitizing, flap the stirrup, okay, pull on the back cinch, whack the saddle, jump up and down beside the saddle, move the saddle around, get him used to all this banging and noise. Really start slapping the stirrup here. Okay, I can't stress the importance enough of trying to get bucked off on the ground. The more you try to get bucked off on the ground, the safer you are in saddle. Good boy. I like how relaxed his muscles are. He's nice and relaxed. He doesn't feel tight. Oh, I like that. See, when I started jumping that time, he didn't throw his head up. That's good. That's good news. Good boy. That's a boy. Excellent. I'll get my bag out. Work on that. See, like right here, anytime from this point forward, I feel any drag, drive those feet. At any time I feel any resistance on that halter when I'm leading him, I'm going to turn around and drive those feet. Instead of dragging him where I want, I'm going to drive him. That's a boy. I like that just then. As soon as I really started flapping it, he stood still. That's it. We're going to show you a lot of other desensitizing exercises to do with your horse as well. Beat that saddle. See how he's a little apprehensive, his head's up a little bit. He's got to get used to something moving up above those eyes. That's the biggest reason why people get bucked off horses, colts, is because that horse sees you up above their eyes and they've never seen any movement up there before, and then they overreact. Use that reactive side of their brain. Okay. Very important. Found a little oh-no spot. Found a little oh-no spot. This is what I'm looking for. Little oh-no spots. Parts where he says, you know what? That kind of bothers me. I'm a little bit frightened of that. And that's where I say, yes. Now I'm going to get rid of this on the ground. I'm going to get rid of it on the ground where I'm safe. And you can't get hurt. Okay. Like that in cocking his leg. So on the left side up high, he had a little bit of an oh-no spot there. So I need to make a mental note of that to keep working on it. I love to get them, the softer you get them on the ground, the softer they are in the saddle. I love that, where he's kind of keeping his head there. Good boy, he's doing great. What I'm going to do with Ransom now, mate, is work on leading beside on his right side. I only did the left side, so I'm going to go back now off camera and work on the right side, just following the same steps. Start on the fence. Once they're good on the fence, come off the fence, do your inside turns, then your outside turns, etc. And then he'll pretty much be done for the day. So I'm real happy with his progress for today. And then we'll get him out again tomorrow, work with him again, and he's almost ready to ride here. He's getting real close. You know, you could probably ride him today without any problems, okay? But again, I like to be real sure it's going to go 99.9% right. No point hurrying a horse. What big deal is it taking 7 to 10 days out of your horse's life to make sure you can teach him all the right things on the ground so that when you get on him, you don't end up in some sort of a big rodeo and a wreck, okay? So I like to take my time and make sure the horse is confident at his job on the ground, and that means he'll be confident under saddle as well. So I'm going to go ahead and unsaddle him out here in the middle of the arena. I don't saddle and unsaddle them tied up to the fence or in the barn or any of those areas until they're really broke in the middle of the arena, where they won't move around, they don't get scared, any of that stuff. If you start trying to unsaddle them in the barn and you get into a wreck and they start bucking in the stall or bucking in the alleyway, they might flip over backwards on the concrete. I've seen all kinds of wrecks happen. So get them, make sure they're real confident about being saddled and unsaddled out here, and then you can start to refine it. And I'll show you that later on as well. See you tomorrow, mate. Well, welcome back, mate. We're here on day number 6 with our Mustang Ransom. And this is day number 6 that we've worked with him, but it's saddling number 3, okay? Today I got him out and I saddled him and he was great. He took the saddle real well, threw it all over him. I did the human curry comb, jumped all over him. He didn't move around. He was great, okay? I've already done the other exercises that I've already shown you. You know, yield the hindquarters, yield the forequarters, the backing up, lunging stage 1 and 2, send him. So I've already done all the exercises that we've previously shown you. I'm not going to show them every single day on camera because, you know, you've already seen it, but I want you to be aware that I am working on this every day. We're primarily now showing you just new exercises so you see how his first reaction is and what we're trying to do, but then anytime we're working with him off camera, know that I am actually doing the exercises that I already showed you. It's very, very important that I stress the importance of sensitizing exercise, then a desensitizing, then a sensitizing, then a desensitizing. You must balance the two. If you only sensitize, good news is they'll start moving around and they'll move anytime you want, but they will start to get jumpy and reactive because anytime you move, they think that's a cue for them to move. And then again, if you only desensitize, sure, they'll get quieter, but you won't have their respect. When you tell them to move, they'll tell you to get lost. That's one of the biggest problems that people have with colts is they let their feet get sticky, which is they let them get a bad attitude where they don't want to move out, get them cantering, okay? Especially at that saddling and the first couple of saddlings, I want to make sure those colts are cantering out with that saddle and they get used to feeling that saddle on them, that back cinch touching them, all of those kind of things. So today what I'm going to do right now is show you some new exercises with Ransom. And the first one is what I would call pick me up off the fence. This is a great exercise to teach the horse to get used to you being up above their eye level. Kind of similar to what we did with the ponying exercises we already did with him, okay? But this gets him used to me being up above his eye, gets me used to him used to me being around the saddle, putting weight in the saddle, flapping the stirrups. It's a great way of giving your horse your first ride, their first ride, without actually giving them the first ride. And you'll kind of see what I'm talking about as I get into it. But this is a great way to desensitize the horse to something moving up above you. Remember, all of this groundwork is about preparation. We're preparing the horse for when we get on him. Okay, so, you know, let's just say it takes us 6 or 7, days until he's ready to ride, that's fine. If it would take 10 days or 2 weeks before he's ready to ride, that's fine too. Do not hurry the process, but you're preparing your horse to be ridden. Okay, we probably could have got on him on the 3rd or 4th day, but the risk of him doing something silly or bucking or reacting badly was a lot higher. The more groundwork we do in preparation will ensure that the first few rides, actually all of the rides, go really well. Remember, groundwork prepares you for a safe and successful ride. Gordon McKinley, my mentor, he used to have little sayings that he'd tell me, and one of them was, Clinton, the more times you pick yourself up out of the dirt, the better your groundwork gets. Which means every time I spat that dirt out of my mouth that I got bucked off a colt in my apprenticeship is because I did a poor job of preparing that horse to being ridden. Okay, Ian Francis, another one of my mentors, he said, Clinton, there's a lot of heroes in the graveyard, which meant that a lot of people got on colts before they were ready to get on, and they got bucked off and they broke their neck, broke their back, and they ended up killing themselves or getting into a major wreck. So what is it, what is a big deal about taking a week out of a horse's life, or 2 weeks, or a month to prepare it's going to go well under saddle? To me, it's extremely important that those first 3 rides go really well. Those first 3 rides, I want to be textbook rides where the horse is confident, comfortable, there's no bucking, there's no bolting, there's none of these problems. Because if you get into a wreck within those first 3 rides, I guarantee you can fix it. I'm not trying to say you can't. I've fixed lots of them, but it takes a lot more work, and they'll always have a little bit of a tendency to revert back to it if they get that chance. So I want to make sure that I've over-desensitized the horse and he's very comfortable with things being up above him. So let's get started, mate. For this exercise, it works better if you use 2 people, okay? Now, can you get it done with just one person? The answer is yes, but it's a little bit harder, and I recommend that people use 2 people to get started with, okay? Basically, you want a fence, ideally, that's about 6 feet high, okay? This is a great fence to do it on because it's got some pipe rails that you can step up on, and 6 feet high. If you get any lower than 6 feet, it doesn't work quite as well, okay? So 6 feet is about what I'm looking for, okay? It doesn't work real well if it's a boarded fence, like a fence around the outside of this arena, because you can't rest your feet on anything. Basically, what we're going to do is basically the sending exercise, but from me being up higher. And I'm going to direct the horse with the halter and lead rope, and my apprentice Megan is my helper on the ground, and she's going to influence his feet to move back and forth. And what we're going to do is teach this colt that when you see something up above you, don't panic about that. Don't get worried about it. So it's kind of like we're going to cheat a little bit. We're going to give him his first ride, but from the safety of the fence. If you get bucked off the fence and you fall off the fence, that's a good sign that you shouldn't be starting a colt anyway, okay? So rule number one, if you're not athletic enough to get up on the fence and not kill yourself, put the colt away, okay? So let's get started here, Megan. I'm going to point and direct him, and Megan's going to get behind him and move his feet. Bit more energy there, Megan. There we go. Now point. There. Yield. Now I'm going to point. That's it. Point. And I'm just letting him run into that halter there. There, see how that time he didn't hit it that time? And you can kind of brace up and use that rope against your hip if they really start pulling against you. Point. Put a bit more energy into it, Megan. Make him go with a little bit more energy now. There we go. Now, because we've got him pretty broke here, that's it, he's not going to give us too much trouble here. There we go. Point. Okay, now I'm going to bring him up to me here. Okay, so step number one is I just want to bring his face up here. See, he's a little apprehensive here. There we go. He's got to get used. Help me out a little bit here, Megan. Put a little pressure on him. There we go. Megan's going to help me move his feet. See how he's a little apprehensive about me rubbing him from being up high here? So basically, Megan's the bad cop, I'm the good cop, okay? Her job's to move his feet around and make him work. My job's to rub him and let him rest near me. So when you first start this, they're going to be apprehensive about coming up to you like this on the fence. They're going to want to snort and back away from you, okay? So step one is just get the colt to come up to where you can rub him. Once they get comfortable of knowing that you're going to be the rubbing guy and you let them rest near you, pretty soon they fall in love with you on the fence, okay? Now after practicing this for a few days, I'll just climb up on the fence and lift my hand up and he'll side pass over and pick me up. Okay, so it's kind of like a good little trick to teach your horse. If you need a mounting block or something to get on, you can always use a fence. Right here. Okay, Megan, let's make him move it with more energy now. That's it. That's it. That's it. Make him work a little harder now. That's it. Make him move those feet. That's it. And we're just working him back and forth here. That's it. There we go. I want him to kind of hustle around here a little bit and realize that it's not fun out here. Now we're going to bring him back, Megan. Okay. There. Just like that. Now, he's kind of done what I originally wanted him to do, which is come up a little bit beside me. Now, he doesn't like me rubbing him on his head here, does he? And this is why this is going to be good for him, because he doesn't like it. That's it. So if he wants to move his head around, I might move my hand a little bit more reactive-wise. You know, move it around, rub his imaginary head. Like if he was acting real silly, I'll kind of go do this and desensitize the airspace and then go back and rub him. Okay, so the fact that he doesn't like me touching his head, he's still a little bit reactive about the cut on his face here, on his eye when we picked him up. The cut's getting a lot better. We've been treating it with Vetericin every day. But he doesn't like me rubbing around it too much because he's a little worried that I'm going to bump it or hurt it. Which is okay, he'll get over that. That's a boy. So again, I want to get him used to having me up here, rubbing him here. So he gets to rest near me, and if he moves his feet, he has to move his feet out there. Okay, that's a boy. Righto, Megan, let's go move him again. So she'll point. We're just moving him back and forth here. It's very important to make him work out here, rest near you. Work out here, rest near you. So Megan's doing all the moving, okay? I'm just redirecting his feet here a little bit. There we go. He's bumped into the fence a few times. If he has half a brain, he'll back away from it when he turns. There we go. Okay, now we're gonna bring him up, but now I'm gonna try and bring him up, just help me out a little bit here. There we go, Megan. Just a little bit closer. Notice he's closer to me now, but I'm eventually working my way back to where the saddle is, okay? But I want him to come up. So now he's a little bit more parallel to me. Good boy. Again, he's kind of looking at Megan like, you know, what's going on? Now, Megan's going to back off a little bit now. So she's going to back away from me and kind of release that pressure a little bit more. Okay? So right now, he's getting his first ride, but I'm a lot further forward than what I normally would be. Okay, rub him here. It's just very important that you let him rest and relax. If he wants to rub his head on me a little bit, I'll let him do that. I'd rather him rub his head on me and have confidence that I'm not going to get him than, you know, get after him. Typically, I wouldn't let him rub on me like that, but in his case, especially because he's a little funny about his head here, I'm going to let him get away with it this first time up here to build his confidence a little bit. Good boy. When horses figure out where the rest is, you'd be amazed that they start looking for it. Okay, Megan, let's go again. Move his feet there. That's it. Okay. That's it. See, they'll get smart. He started to figure out where the end of this rope is a little bit, and that's all right. That's it. Okay, Megan, back off. I'm going to try and bring him up a little. Help me out here, Megan. Put a little pressure on him. There we go. Right there. That's a boy. Now I'm a little further back now. Just rub on him a little bit here. Show him that there's nothing to worry about here. And each time we do this, I'm going to get a little bit further back towards that saddle. Okay. A little bit further back there. That's a boy. Lots of rubbing. I can't stress that enough. Getting him ready for that hackamore. I've got to get that hackamore to go over his ears. So anytime I can get to rub my hands over his ears, approach and retreat, I'm going to do it. Lots of slapping on these colts. Get that jump out of them. A lot of colts, when you rub them, they're okay. But when you start doing that slapping sensation, they get a little bit tight with it. So I like to desensitize them to a lot of slapping. I'm not slapping them hard enough that I'm going to hurt them, but it certainly does make a noise and see if they're jumpy there. Righto, Megan, let's move him again. That's it. There we go. So Megan kind of helps yield his hindquarters here. Get that hindquarters to yield. There we go. Okay, Megan, let's bring him back up again. I'm going to initiate it by pulling up on the lead rope. There. Now I'm pretty much level with the saddle. Okay, so Megan backs off. Okay. This is where I want to start giving him that first ride a little bit. Slapping on that saddle. I love that he's real parallel here. A lot of them in the beginning will want to stand with their butt kind of kicked off the fence a little bit. That's very normal in the beginning. I don't get too picky about, like he's standing pretty parallel here. I don't get too picky about it initially. Now I'm going to pull forward here. Help me out a little bit, Megan. There we go. Too much, so bring him back. There. I'm not going to get too picky about him standing parallel to the fence right straight off the bat. I just want to kind of get him confident that he can come up to the fence and get a rest. So you're going to pull on that back cinch. As far as he's concerned, I'm riding him now. Slap on this saddle, move the saddle around, okay? Move this cinch, the girth here, the fender here, stirrup, move it all over him, pull on the back cinch. Now, if at any point he tried to run away right now or got frightened, okay, of me doing any of this, we would just go back and put his feet back to work again, okay? Make him work out there, rest here. Work out there, rest here. You know, if you've been to one of our tours, you know how I do the trailering, don't I? Is I make him work outside the trailer, put him in, let him rest. Work him outside the trailer, put him in, let him rest. You do that a few times, man, they start craving that trailer pretty bad, okay? Well, I want him to crave coming over here beside the fence. Good boy, he's doing great. Okay, rightio. Megan, we'll go put him back to work again, point. Right here. Just gonna be careful, yield that hindquarters. Sometimes he wants to get some leverage on me on that side. Point. Now I like kind of what he did just then, is he didn't really want to go past me then. He was kind of saying, hey, see that little hesitancy there? Now I'll let him rest beside me. Let me see if I can get him up here. Love that. I love it how he kind of pushed into my leg just a little bit just there. There we go. Did you see that last time? There was a little bit of hesitancy there, wasn't there? Like a couple of times he ran past me and he kind of half stopped, like, hey, how about we just stop? We can make all this end right now. Let's just stop and have a cigarette and rest right beside you right now. That's what I'm looking for. I love it when my horse says, hey, how about she goes away and me and you just hang out here together and you can flop all over me. That'd be what I'd like. That was real good what he started to do there. So once I get more confident, I can get one leg on the fence and move him around here. Now remember, I've got one leg on the fence. If he went to take off right now, I just do that. Put all my weight on the fence. I am not riding the horse right now. Okay, I'm leaning on him. I got one hand on the fence. Okay, I can't stress that enough. Do not let go of the fence. If anything bad happened, I just do that. Okay, I can't stress that enough. There we go. See, he's getting a little used to some weight on his back here a little bit. Okay. See, a lot of colts, what they'll do is when you get on them, they're looking at you out of their left eye. And then when you go off and they move their feet, then they turn their head and look at you out of their right eye. At that point, they'll either jump and scoot a little bit, or they might try a buck. I want to get them used to seeing me out of this other eye without overreacting. So I'm trying to get bucked off right now. I'm trying to, hey, do anything I can to cause him to want to jump. Now, I'm going to have Megan move him just to kind of simulate, let's just say he took off, okay? So Megan, get behind him. So I just hang on to the fence, just like that there. So if he took off, we'll move him again. Move him again, Megan. Yield that hindquarters. Point, send him off. That's it. Righto, we'll bring him back to me again and then let him rest. I love that there. He came straight up here. The other reason why I like to use the 6-foot high fence is that if it's any lower, they kind of push into your leg too much in your knee and they might crush your leg into the fence a little bit. Where if it's higher like this, see how my feet are kind of above his belly there? So I don't have to worry about that. Now he's backed up a little bit. Let me move him forward. Megan's going to help me. Too much. There we go, good boy. See, he's figured out the answer now, hasn't he? He says, you know what? Okay, I figured out when I come over here, I get to have a rest. So this is what I call the city slicker first ride. You're being brave, but you're being a chicken. You get to hang on to the fence and give them their first ride. And I love doing this with people because it really prepares that horse from being ridden. Okay? Now, after a few days of practicing this, I don't need the helper, okay? I can move the horse by myself, and they'll get so smart that as soon as you climb up on a fence, they just side pass over to you because they're looking for that rest, okay? So he's done really well. Another couple of things you can do here is move your rope around, okay? Flap this all over them here, okay? Make sure they're comfortable with this. Throw it on the ground and then draw it up. You can tie some handkerchiefs to the end of your rope and get them used to seeing something coming up the ground at them, okay? Another thing I'll do is get the plastic bag. Megan, can you throw me that bag, please? Get them used to that. He's already had that. Move your hindquarters. He's already had the bag on the ground and a little bit up above him, but not a great deal. Move him around there, Megan. That's it. Move that hindquarters. Yield that hindquarters. Yield that hindquarters. Now we'll let him rest. There we go. So I can move this bag around on him here. I can move back a little further if I need to. There we go. What do you think about this? Okay, lots of rubbing here. If you can stand on the ground or above him and whack the saddle with that bag and have him fall asleep, that's a good sign. Okay, real good sign. I'm going to keep flapping it until he stops shaking his head. Move him around. That's it. Move that hindquarters. Move that hindquarters. There we go. The only place he gets to rest is right here, beside me. Good boy. So he's doing great here. Try to get bucked off. This is where you need to do your homework. See, when people say to me, I get this question, a reasonable amount at like tours and some of my clinics, but mainly at the tours, and people will say, Clinton, I got this 7-year-old horse and it's been bucking people off its whole life, and I don't know why it's bucking, and you might ride it for 10 minutes and then all of a sudden it breaks in half, or the next day you'll ride it for an hour and then it breaks in half and it bucks everybody off. How do I get it to stop bucking? Okay, I don't know why it's bucking. All I know is this: the bucking's either coming from a lack of respect or fear-based, okay? One of those two categories. Well, by following the groundwork, you're not only working on the respect by getting his feet to move forwards, backwards, left and right, but you're working on the desensitizing, what we're doing now, and getting the fear out of the horse, okay? So what I would do, if you sent that horse to me to train, I used to get lots of them in Australia that had problems like that, bucking people off and all kinds of stuff. I wouldn't ride them for 7 days, okay? But I do all the groundwork. And basically what I'm doing is I'm checking out to see where the holes are in this horse's foundation. And you'll guarantee that you'll go along with that horse and do all the groundwork, and there'll be one particular exercise where that horse really has a problem with it. Okay, it could be seeing the plastic bag above his eyes. It could be the back cinch pulling on his belly. It could be, him seeing you out of a different eye when you turn him. It's something he's going to have a problem with, and that's where you're going to really spend a lot of time and get that stickiness out of him and that hole. I kind of look at the groundwork when I'm retraining a problem horse, kind of like I've got a leak in my roof, okay? And my job is to get on the top of that roof, and I just keep walking back and forth in a systematic pattern, back and forth across the roof until I find where the hole is, and I patch it up, and I keep walking back until I cross from one side of the roof to the other. But I just treat it like a grid. I just keep going back and forth. And rather than just aimlessly walking around looking for a hole, I start a system. That's what I'm kind of doing with the groundwork, is I'm double checking. What do you think about this? How's this feel to you? Are you going to be scared about this? Are you going to be disrespectful? What are you going to do? Now, by the time I find that hole in that horse, or there could be several, I fix those holes and get the fear out of him and get him respectful. When I start riding those horses again, they don't buck anymore. They don't bolt. They don't rev. They don't do any of these bad things. Okay? And that's the hard part that I have to get across to people. The bucking, if your horse is bucking or bolting or doing something bad, that's a symptom of a cause. The cause is either coming from a lack of respect or fear. Okay, so figure out which one it is. It could be both, and fix that, and the bucking will disappear by itself. So what we're going to do now is we're going to actually change sides with him now and do it on the other side, okay? So I just make sure I'm comfortable with my bag here. I'll throw this back to Megan. And now I'm going to turn around on the fence now and just do the exact same exercise, but on the other eye. I want to make sure the horse is comfortable going both ways. Okay, Megan, let's go ahead and move him. That's it. That's it. See, he's getting a little smart. He doesn't want to quite go. Get behind him more, Megan, and drive him. There we go. Make sure he goes far enough past you. Don't let him get too short. There we go. Because they will have a tendency to shorten up on you. And you don't want that. You want him to go somewhere. If I have to kick him a little bit, give him a little foot therapy, I will. There we go. Okay, we'll bring him back now. Now he's going to get a little confused here because he's got to come up beside me. Stand over there, Megan, help me. There. He's going to get a little confused here. It's a new eye, which means what? New brain. So now his right eye is going to be the closest eye to me. So when we change sides, we change brains, don't we? So I just come back and get him confident about just being up here with his head. See how his butt's off the fence? I'm not worried about getting him parallel just yet. okay? They will get a little confused when you first change sides, where they'll keep wanting to line up on that original side, okay? And that's a nice problem to have. He's just a little confused there. That's a boy. Good. He's a little better with his head here. There's a little oh-no spot, so I'm going to rub that a little bit, and then retreat, and rub it again. Found a little oh-no spot there. When I find those oh-no spots, I've got to work on that. See here? He's trying to avoid me. I just keep rubbing. There. Now when he relaxes, what do? Take my hand away. Rub, 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 and then retreat. And then rub, 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 and then retreat. The secret to training a horse is getting really good at approach and retreat. Know when to apply pressure. See here, if I take my hand away now when he's shaking his head, I'd be teaching him to shake his head. I'm just saying, hey, you can shake your head all day long. It doesn't bother me, but you're not getting rid of that hand until you relax. Good boy. Okay. Good boy. Yield that hindquarters. That's it. Yield. Okay. Righto, Megan. Leave him alone for a little bit. Let me see if I can bring him up here. Oh, I love that. That time he came up here by himself a little bit more. See how he moved his butt over? And he came up beside me a lot better. Now I'm basically using Megan as a backup to help me. Now tomorrow I do the same exercise, except I wouldn't use Megan that much. I only use her if I need to. And by the third session of this, I should be able to climb up on the fence and just have him come over beside me real quick. Good boy. Like that. Good boy. Okay, rubbing on him here. Let him figure out how nice it is to be up beside you. Preparing those ears for that hackamore later on the bridle. That's a boy. Righto. I'll show you how I do this by myself a little bit. Just back off a little bit there, Megan. This is how I'd try to do it by myself. I could use my foot. Yield that hindquarters, please. Just kind of move him around. Yield that hindquarters. Yield that hindquarters. Now I'll bring him up here. Okay. So it's a little harder to get their feet moving when you're up here by yourself, just initially. Later on it's going to be pretty easy. So that's kind of why I have a helper in the beginning. But can you get it done by yourself? Yes. Okay, help me out a bit here, Megan. Push him a little bit. Get around behind him. Move that butt over, please. There we go. They'll get a little confused. If he passes me, send him back over. That's it. There. There. That's a boy. Get back a little further near this saddle. Okay. Again, you're riding the fence, not the horse. Next time I want him to get a little closer to the fence. Okay. Can't stress enough about leaning over and flopping that stirrup, moving all over these horses. Good boy, lots of slapping. Righty, let's move him again, Megan. Bring him up here. Yield that hindquarters. That's it. A little more further forward. There, too much. Right there, I like that. He's a lot more parallel to the fence. Again, keep one hand on the fence at all times. It's safety first. Okay. I remember one of the first colt starting clinics I did here in the States, and I showed people this exercise, and I said to everybody, I said, okay, everybody, when you do this, make sure you don't let go of the fence. You know, if a horse wants to jump or take off, just hold on to the fence and let it move his feet, and then, you know, you'll get him shaped up again. But don't let go of the fence. Don't ride the horse. And 10 minutes later, I turn around, and this guy says, hey, Clinton, look at me. And he's standing on the saddle with both hands in the air, okay? And right about that moment, the horse took off, and he fell over backwards and fell on his butt, okay? He didn't die. I kind of hoped that he would have. But you got to use your head here. You know, that's why when I do colt starting clinics, I only do them kind of every couple of years, because it's a very stressful time for me, because I'm trying to keep 20 people and 20 colts all alive at the same time. And a lot of people just don't understand how quickly something can go bad and how dangerous it can be if you don't prepare, if you don't do your homework. Even though I've done my homework, I'm always planning. I'm sitting on this fence. If he took off right now, it ain't going to bother me. Okay, that's why we do it in a round pen, so the horse ain't going to take off bucking, or, you know, it's not going to be hard for me to catch him, okay? So when I talk about safety things, please take it seriously, because I don't want you to get hurt, okay? Good boy. Good boy. I love this. He's getting real close to being ready here. You know, some people watching this, they'd say, what do you mean close to being ready? My grandmother could ride this horse. That's what I want. I want to overdo my groundwork to the point where a 95-year-old woman could get on this horse with a bad hip and it's not going to buck her off. It's going to take care of her. See, I consider when you ride a horse for the first 3 rides, I consider it to be the most dangerous out of all the rides, is the first 3 rides. If you're at one of my colt starting clinics and your horse bucks under saddle in the first 3 rides, even if you ride the horse out and you don't get bucked off, you get an F, you fail. Because if you've done your homework right, he shouldn't be wanting to buck. He shouldn't want to be bolt or take off. You know, a lot of guys travel around the country and do 4-day colt starting clinics. That's why I don't do 4-day colt starting clinics, because I can't get them broke enough usually in 4 days if they're wild to where a 95-year-old lady could get on the horse, okay? So even if you ride the horse out and you can ride a bucking horse pretty good, you still get an F. Because a bucking horse tells me and the rest of the world that you failed at your groundwork as a horseman. You failed preparing that horse. Okay, a lot of the old timers, you know, if they buck, they just laugh at it, no big deal. That's not a true horseman. A true horseman gets a horse to where they don't want to flee, they don't want to buck, they don't want to take off. Okay, that's why when I did the rode the horse colt starting competition, I got the horse to where you could shoot guns off it, stand on it with a chainsaw, you know, move all around it, crack whips, all this kind of stuff, to where, you know, literally I wanted to be confident enough that I could pull a lady out of the audience that could barely ride and say, come down here in this round pen and get on this colt. And I would bet money that that colt would just walk around the round pen, try a little bit. He wouldn't spook it or jump, buck, any of that type of stuff. That's my idea of a broke colt. Now, not others, but that's what my idea is of a safe horse. Megan, give me the plastic bag, please, mate. And I want to do a little bit of that on this side. There we go. Thank you. So I can move him around a little bit with the bag, okay? Move that hindquarters. Move that hindquarters around. Okay. There. Move that butt over. There. Release it. There. See where I release the pressure when his hip stepped over? There. There. Megan's helping me a little bit. There we go. Okay. I actually like it that I have to whack him with the bag a little bit. If he's so dull that I have to whack him with the bag a little bit, that's a good problem to have. That means he ain't real worried about that bag. Okay. Lots of whacking here, lots of shaking it up in the air. Get him comfortable. Move it back and forth. You old donkey. Good boy. You're not looking too wild now, are you? Pretty good. Real good, in fact. Good boy. Okay, let me move his hindquarters over. I can bump him in the flank here with my foot. Get him to move. There we go. Move that hindquarters away. Kick. There we go. You can bump them in the flank with your foot and see how they react. If you accidentally kick one in the flank when you're getting on or off, or you know, they jump and you accidentally get your legs back a little bit, I don't want them so sensitive that they're just going to squirt and jump and kick and jump out from underneath you. Good boy, he did great. I'd like to go ahead now, mate, and show you some additional desensitizing exercises that you can do with your horses. Now, you can pretty much introduce these really at any point, especially if it's a domesticated quiet colt, okay? I'm kind of leaving it to this point because I really wanted to get pretty good control of his feet, get him using the thinking side of his brain, get the rope and the stick and string done in the plastic bag, and now I'm going to kind of do additional desensitizing, okay? One thing I like to do is what I call beat him with kindness. I want to get a couple of just paper feed sacks, lay one on top of the other, and just roll the end up, and then just put a little bit of duct tape around it. I know it looks like a little bit of a redneck deal, but it works real good, and it's great to get that jumpiness out of those colts. So what I'll do is I just want to beat them with kindness with it, okay? I'll do a little approach and retreat, let them smell it, then retreat, let them smell it. Now I just kind of start beating the air with it, beating it on my leg, and then as they get better, I start just whacking them with it. Now it's not going to hurt them, but it does get them used to something really flapping around them. It's different from the bag, and it touches them a little bit different. It makes a different noise because it's the paper. And I just want to start out flogging them with kindness, beating them with kindness here on the saddle here, top of their hindquarters. See how I'm staying up at a 45-degree angle to his shoulder? If he went to kick, he's not going to get me. Went to strike, okay? He's wanting to move around, so what do? We just keep doing it until he decides to stand still and relax. Use 2 feed sacks, otherwise they bend too much, but try to keep their head tipped towards you at all times. Okay, then retreat and rub him, then build it, okay? And then from here, just really start over-exaggerating. I love a lot of it up under their belly here. Now stay up by the shoulder in case they jump forward and cow kick at you or something. But see how he's jumping in his flank right there? I want to get all that jumpiness out of him to where I can flog him with this and he stands there bored to death, okay? I'm just looking for those, oh no, I don't like that. I can do a circular motion, okay? Sometimes I'll come up from underneath here like this, okay? And that bag kind of makes a different noise, these paper bags. I love that, how he had his leg cocked there. Rub him here, okay? I love this because it just gets a lot of that jump out of them, okay? It gets a lot of that flinchiness, especially up here under their belly. A lot of colts are very jumpy around their flank and under their belly. And I want to get them really desensitized to things touching them back there so that when I'm riding them, they don't react to the back cinch, react to my legs bumping against their side. Okay, so you're really just looking for those oh no spots. Okay, I don't really do it on their head so much. Okay, I will rub it all over their face, but I don't worry about their head until their body's good. Get their body good. But again, keep their head tipped towards you, 45-degree angle. Okay, underneath, over the top. Underneath, over the top. And really just flog them with kindness, beat them with kindness. Okay, get them to where you can't make them run away from you. There we go, good boy. Always finish off by flexing them, rubbing them here, slapping them under that belly, around their flank here, jumping up and down. See, he's a lot better about this, isn't he? Remember when we first started doing this, he would jump when we would stand beside the saddle and jump up and down. He's a lot better about it. He's pretty good here, flapping here. Okay, good boy. Whatever we do on one side, let's do it on the other. Okay. If they want to run around, just keep flapping it until they stand still and relax. As long as their head's tipped towards you, you're in good shape. You can do this without the saddle, with the saddle. I like to actually do both. Get them used to it flapping and hitting the saddle, and just on their back as well. Okay. In the beginning, when I retreat, I always put the bag behind me so he doesn't rear up and strike it if I stick it up under his nose. Good boy. That head tip towards you. I love it when I can just flap this on their belly and they don't flinch. He's still flinching a little bit when it goes up around his flank here, but after a couple of days of me messing with this, he'll be bomb-proof with it. He's actually acting really good, and he's about acting how he should, with me doing all the other desensitizing with the rope, the stick, the bag. This shouldn't be that big of a problem. Okay. See how he doesn't like this coming from the horn down to his shoulder? So I'll keep doing it. Anytime I find a little area that he's not real comfortable with, I just keep doing that movement. See him shaking his head here a little bit? Just keep doing it. Found a little oh-no spot here. That's a little better. Wants to move his feet, we just keep doing it. Throwing his head around or moving his feet, he's not going to get rid of it. There, he's keeping his head a little bit stiller here. There. He kind of looked away a little bit just then, kind of like he got bored. I'll take that as a good sign to retreat. And I'll do it again. You notice I always flex him. Whatever side I'm on, I always finish with that flexing, because it's going to help me when I go to ride him and pick up on that hackamore, and I want him to bend and give, not brace against it. So the more flexing I can do, there, I like that. Kind of kept his head bent towards me. Okay. So I'm just going to keep chipping away at this. And I'm going to do it in between each of my groundwork exercise, desensitizing with the bag, the rope, the stick, and the paper bag. Plastic bag and paper bag. Good boy. If I'm not 99.9% sure it's going to be a textbook ride, I won't get on. Spend another 2 or 3 days on the ground. That's a boy. Okay, let me show you another desensitizing exercise, mate. You can work on with your horses. Another great tool to desensitize your horse to is an Australian stock whip. It's kind of tradition in Australia to always break in a colt with a stock whip, to where you can crack the stock whip on the ground and he's nice and relaxed, and ride the horse and be able to crack a stock whip on the saddle. You know, when I was breaking in colts for Gordon, a lot of the people that sent us colts to break in, you know, they were graziers or ranchers, and they needed to be able to have a horse that you could ride around on, crack a stock whip on, gather cattle up, because we use a stock whip a lot in Australia to encourage cattle to move, okay? So you want to be able to make sure that when they took those horses home and they cracked the whip, that horse wasn't going to buck them off. I like the whip because it gets them used to something that's moving around them. It makes a loud noise, and it's really quick and reactive. And if you can get your horse to just be dull and relax with that, that's a real good sign. It's another good exercise to use in preparation to desensitizing your horse to guns, okay? Road to the horse, you saw me use the guns a lot where I desensitize. Well, you prepare them with the stock whip first. So in the beginning, it's very much like the stick and string. I just start out flogging them with kindness, okay? Just flip it all over them, get them comfortable with this. By this stage of the game, you shouldn't be running into any major desensitizing problems, okay? But, you know, notice I didn't start with the whip either. I started with the rope, then we went to the stick and string, and then the plastic bag. We built up to the scary things. You know, if I would have started with the whip, it probably would have been a little bit harder, okay? I love that, how he's standing there with his leg cocked. So always start out flogging him with kindness. Around these back legs here, okay? Around his front legs. Just make sure that they're just comfortable with things moving around them. And of course, I always do this on both sides. Make sure that they're comfortable. If they move around, keep applying it until they stand still and relax. I think that's the biggest problem that people do with desensitizing, is they retreat and take the stimulus away too quickly while the horse is still moving his feet. How do you sensitize a horse's feet? You apply pressure. When he moves his feet, you take that pressure away. That's how you sensitize him. You desensitize him by applying pressure. When he keeps his feet still and he relaxes, then you take that pressure away. Okay? Good boy. Horses don't learn from what you're doing, they learn from when you stop doing what you're doing. It's releasing that pressure. Now it's pretty simple, I just start cracking it. He's a little worried about it. Okay. And I just keep cracking it. I just follow him. Again, I don't care where he goes. He wants to kind of keep putting me on this other side here. I might stand out in front a little bit here. Two eyes. You just keep moving it around. Two eyes. Kept his feet still, but he's still kind of shaking his head, isn't he? Might back away a little further, try and get a better starting point. Two eyes. Two eyes. Don't let him just wander around aimlessly. Okay, very important not to take it away when he's moving his feet. There, I quit there. He kept his head still and he licked his lips all at the same time. So I started out beside him, but he started not wanting me on that side. So I got more out in front of him to get two eyes, and then I'll progressively get around the side of him again. I just felt like it would be easier for him as a starting point to go out here if he was really bothered. Now I can get in beside him a little bit more. Now that time there, kept his head still, so I retreat. And that head shaking, it'll just get better and better as I keep practicing it. Never hurts to go back and flog him with a little kindness. Okay. So now I'm back in beside him again. There, see, that time I cracked it, he kept his head still, so that'd be a good place to retreat him and rub him. I love that, good boy. So initially he reacted badly and then I just kept staying with it. I didn't try and make him stand still, I just made it hard for him to move. I keep him two eyes on me. There, good boy. Let's try the other side. He's bothered by it, but he's still not moving his feet, is he? Which is a good sign. Kept his head still a little bit, and his feet. Retreat and rub him. Good boy. He's doing great. Always retreat and rub them when they start to relax. That was his best one yet. Didn't shake his head. Okay, I'll do it out in front too. He's already had a bit of this though, but I'll do it on in both arms. There, he kept his head still. Walk up and rub him. Good boy. Good boy. Good boy. So that was something extra to desensitize him to, get him relaxed about it. We'll keep continuing to do this on the ground. And then after we ride him for a few days and get him good under saddle, we'll start cracking it under saddle and we'll show you that.